Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into some really significant political and social things happening down in Colombia. We've got this AP News article in front of us, and, well, our mission is to unpack a pretty bold move by the Colombian president. He's basically taking a direct route, trying to change labor laws, bypassing the usual legislative channels. So get ready as we explore the complexities of power, policymaking, in real time. Okay, let's jump right in. The core event. Colombian President Gustavo Petro. He signed a decree. This was Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. And this isn't just, any old executive order. It's a direct call for voters to go to the polls this August. So Petro's using this decree to let the people themselves decide on some really sweeping changes to the country's labor laws. It's actually a move he threatened Congress with it, didn't he? Said if they didn't approve his overhaul, he'd put it to the voters directly.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating here, I think, is that decision to just bypass the legislature altogether. It's not just a power play, though. I mean, it kind of reflects this broader trend we're seeing globally, actually, where leaders may be facing gridlock or strong opposition in their legislatures. They turn to these direct democratic tools. It really makes you ask, is this genuinely about embracing the popular will, or is it more of a tactic, a way to get around checks and balances when the legislative path gets, blocked?
That's a really critical point. So, okay, what does this actually mean for the workers, for people on the ground in Colombia? What specific changes are we talking about? What's on the table for voters in this referendum? I think the article mentioned 12 questions. 12 distinct questions. Key ones seem to be things like, should workdays be limited to 8 hours? That's a big one. Also, should workers get double pay if they work on holidays? And should the daytime workday officially end at 6 p.m.? Plus, there's a big push for open-ended contracts to prioritize job stability, right? So more secure, permanent jobs instead of, temporary ones.
Mm-hmm. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, these aren't just minor tweaks, are they? This is really a fundamental ideological battle playing out. Remember, Petro is Colombia's first leftist president. So he's, in essence, trying to roll back maybe decades of neoliberal reforms that arguably weakened worker protections. He's aiming to set up a whole new social contract for labor there. It goes way beyond just hours or pay. It's about the philosophy of work, of economic power itself.
Wow. Okay. And it's clear this decree didn't just, appear out of thin air. It's the latest development in what sounds like a pretty long-running, tense situation between the president and Congress. The article says Congress actually rejected Petro's labor reform proposals twice already.
That's right, twice. The most recent rejection was back in March.
And then on May 1st, May Day, interestingly, Petro sent lawmakers this 12-question referendum proposal, which, under Colombian law, the Senate has to rule on.
Correct. They're required to vote on it. And just 2 weeks after he sent it, the Senate voted against it. It was super close, though, 49 to 47. Petro's reaction. He openly accused the lawmakers of fraud. And being the first leftist president, he's publicly said Congress is working against workers' interests. He's even called for demonstrations across the country.
Yeah, that really underscores just how deep this political divide runs. And while the article does focus on Petro's accusations, it's worth considering the other side, too. Congress's opposition probably comes from various concerns, maybe the economic impact of these big reforms, the effect on businesses, or even just procedural objections to how the president is going about it. It raises that question, what's really driving this escalation? It's not just about these specific policies, surely. I mean, these disagreements go back to the start of his term in 2022, but they've definitely ramped up now, especially as he's likely looking to consolidate his legacy before next year's elections, legislative and presidential, right? Legacy building. And then adding another layer of complexity, just as if the political heat wasn't enough, this decree was issued right after a really disturbing security incident. That Saturday, just before the June 11th decree, an opposition senator, Miguel Uribe, who's also a presidential candidate, he was shot during a public event right in the capital, Bogota. And the article said he was still in critical condition when the decree was signed on Wednesday.
Yeah, just awful news.
Authorities are investigating, obviously, looking into the motive. Could it be a targeted political attack, an attempt to destabilize things, maybe retaliation from illegal armed groups? So many possibilities.
And that incident, it just dramatically highlights how fragile the whole political environment is there. It adds this layer of really serious uncertainty. It's not just a tragedy in isolation, you see. It could actually harden the political divisions even further, maybe even influence public mood or, how the Constitutional Court approaches this decree given the timing and the tension. It's a stark reminder of the profound real-world stakes in this whole political chess game.
Absolutely. So with all these layers, all these complexities, it definitely sounds like this decree is far from a done deal. What are the big legal hurdles it's facing? Does the article give any sense of maybe precedents for this kind of thing in Colombia?
You're exactly right. It's not a done deal at all. Petro himself knows this. He's already said his government will send the decree to Colombia's constitutional court for review. And that court, well, it's the highest judicial body. Its job is to make sure laws and decrees actually line up with the Constitution. So that review is a massive hurdle. If they rule against it, his whole plan could just, well, fall apart. And adding another twist to the legal maze, there's the Council of State. That's Colombia's top administrative court. They often handle disputes about government actions, and they're looking at a lawsuit right now. This lawsuit specifically wants to annul the Senate's earlier vote against the referendum proposal.
Ah, okay. So if that lawsuit succeeds,
Then it could potentially force Congress to take up the issue again. It just adds another layer of legal uncertainty.
wow. So, yeah, despite the president signing this decree, these labor reforms are really anything but guaranteed. The legal system, the courts, are going to play a huge role in what happens next. It really shows the checks and balances that are still present in the Colombian political system, even with all this tension. What a fascinating, complex situation we've dug into today, really diving deep into Colombia's political landscape, from, a president's really bold decree to this high-stakes fight with the legislature, and even factoring in that tragic shooting. It's just such a powerful reminder of how messy and intricate real-world policy change actually is. We've seen how specific ideas like the 8-hour workday or double pay on holidays, they get caught up in these much larger battles over power, over political legacy, and all the while these significant legal challenges are looming in the background. Thinking about all this, just consider how deep these political disagreements run and the pretty dramatic steps President Petro is taking here. What could this push for direct democracy, for bypassing the legislature, mean for the balance of power in Colombia going forward? What about future political strategies? And maybe stepping back even further, what does this whole situation tell us about the role of direct citizen participation, referendums and the like, in legislative processes globally, especially when the traditional paths seem blocked? Definitely something for you to mull over until our next deep dive.